Stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to Monday, April 13th. If you have any questions or business with this body, come up to the microphone, give us your name, your address, and state your comment or business. I'll ask for the roll call, please.
Cedar,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Kinstadter,
Here.
Krebs, Cuffa,
Here.
Laporte,
Here.
McCartney. May I request a motion to excuse member Krebs and McCartney?
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion made, supported to excuse members McCartney and Krebs. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go to 4, consent agenda, A, City Council minutes of March 16th, 2015, special and regular meetings, recommendation approved. B, is the Historical Commission minutes of December 11th, 2014, recommendation received. C, Harbor Commission minutes of March 7th, 2015, recommendation received. And D, proclamation designating April 24th, 2015 as Arbor Day.
Motion to approve A through D as presented, Your Honor.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made, supported. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will take 1 minute and read this proclamation, being that we are a Tree City, USA. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. Whereas the City of St. Clair has been recognized as a Tree City, USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, I, Bill Cedar Jr., by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of St. Clair, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2015 as Arbor Day in the City of St. Clair. I urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees, to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Signed this day, April 13th. Thank you. We have a presentation tonight, Mr. Casey from the EDA. Mr. Casey?
Thank you. I don't know, do I really need the microphone?
I don't know, it's on TV.
I probably don't need it unless they need it for video. So anyway, I wanted to give you an update on activities related to EDA, the county, economic development, and of course our local efforts with your community and in the region. So after that, we can take a couple questions if anyone has any. So first, I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about where we are with investment in jobs. Starting with successes. Now we're pretty early in the year, and despite that, we've already hit $162 million in investment in the county. That's more than we had all of last year, the year before that, and so on, all the way back to 2007 when the Chrysler plant was first opened. So how do we explain that? Most of that investment is coming from a consumer's energy project that's taking place in Ira Township, which is currently under construction. And it's going to create some jobs, not a lot of jobs, but still, it inflates the number, makes it look pretty high. However, we have another roughly $160 million in investment that we anticipate happening this year in the county. A lot of that is healthcare related. There's a couple of different hospitals that are going to be investing a lot of money, and there's some other industrial projects we're involved with that are going to be investing some money. So overall, this year is going to be a really good year for investment in the county. I know SMR's in Marysville, but I think it's important to point out that they are a big job creator in St. Clair County, and they have been for the past 2 years. And about a year ago, they had their incentive for what they call Project Lions approved. That was their first project. And at that time, they committed to creating 353 jobs in the county to support their operations. By June of this year, they will have completed all of those jobs. So they're well on their way to meeting all of their commitments. And I'm also excited to say that there's another project announcement with them that's going to be happening in just a week or so. One of the reasons why I point that out is because we always talk about the spin-off benefit of economic development projects. The spin-off can be jobs, or it can be investment, or it can be both. So one example of that I wanted to point out is Mugel, which is a St. Clair County company. There's a supplier to SMR, a logistics company that was out of state, supporting their other operations that they have in different places like Mexico. And so they decided to move up here to provide logistics support for SMR, and they needed warehousing space. And so they've worked out a deal with Mugel. So Mugel is now warehousing some of that product that they're shipping out of the plant, and they're putting it into the warehouse, and then they're using Mugela's warehousing and distribution software and system to track those goods once they leave the plant. So a lot of good things happening. That's one example of a spin-off benefit that's also benefiting St. Clair. Other things, other successes so far this year, the convention center in Port Huron is going to be opening. That's providing a resource to the whole region. Recently, Norma Group here in St. Clair completed an investment of new equipment, $610,000. And so far this year, we have 110 new jobs that have been announced with 5 projects that are all expansion projects in the county, and a lot more to come. These are just so far the first 4 months of the year. Now I'm going to talk just for a second about the pipeline. I think it's important that everybody know that when the EDA represents the county and its communities, we primarily are representing you and your sites and your buildings to prospects, and those prospects come from all over. They can come from out of state, even out of the country, and sometimes they can be Metro-based companies. But nonetheless, a lot of prospects. So we're currently working on, in our pipeline, $539 million in potential projects. Now, we're not going to win most of them, let's face it. I mean, it's very competitive out there, but the fact is we've submitted for numerous projects, and that's one of the results. The biggest of those projects is a $400 million investment. And that is a project that we've submitted for, that we have a potential to win. It's a paper recycling facility. In terms of retention and expansion, we have $167 million in projects that we're currently working on with companies that are located in St. Clair County. And then we also do community investment projects, as you know, things like the St. Clair Inn rehabilitation, the Marine City Hotel project, the Citadel project, Port Huron. The recently announced grocery store in K-Pac is another one that we're involved with, and there's about $26 million in investment in those projects. Most of those will come to fruition this year. And then lastly, the total number of jobs in the pipeline, if we were to win all those projects, is about 1,080. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the St. Clair Industrial Park. We've been working with a number of companies on that park. We just fortunately heard some bad news from one of the prospects we were working with, that they're going to build their building in Lyon Township. And this was one of the choices that they were looking at. The reason they picked Lyon Township is because they were going to have to pay a significant transportation penalty because the customer is the GM plant in Lansing, and they're required to be within 50 miles of the plant or they have to pay a transportation penalty. And in this case, it was worth $1 million per year. So there's no way that we can overcome that through incentives. And so our site here came in third place in this project, and they attempted to get GM to waive that penalty, but they refused. So they had no choice really but to go to Lyon Township. So we just learned about that a week ago. Having said that, we've got a number of prospects that we're working on with this site currently. But I wanted to give you kind of an overview of some factors that are impacting projects that are coming to the county and to this site. Overall investment is up, as I've already indicated. We've had a significant number of employment successes over the last 2 to 3 years, and this is a year in which a lot of those jobs are being created. I mentioned SMR. There's another big project in Port Huron, Iceman, which is creating 242 or 244 jobs at the end of this year, and other projects locally that are generating jobs. One of the key factors going forward is the state's incentives. I think you probably have heard that the state is having some budget deficit issues because of all the tax credits from the previous incentive programs under Granholm and prior to her under Governor Engler, and it's creating a hole in the budget. And one of the ways that the state is trying to solve that hole is to reduce the pool of incentives that they have to offer companies right now. So this is disappointing because basically you can equate that incentive to a certain number of dollars per job created. And for Iceman, for example, last year it was $10,000 per job. That was the basic number that was negotiated. We just did a project recently that was $3,000 per job. So they cut the incentive significantly. And that's what they're telling us that they're going to be doing going forward. It's going to be highly competitive to get grant money through the state to support projects. They're cutting back on the money that they use for community revitalization as well. So it's just going to be tougher to get that money to support these projects in the future. Some of it's still there, but Michigan is not going to be very competitive for bigger projects. There's a Volvo plant, for example, right now that's looking in the south. They also looked in Michigan for a location to put a new plant. Huge project, over $1 billion investment. They won't be coming to Michigan because Michigan just doesn't have the cash incentives to provide them to be competitive. Other factors, automotive investments are starting to slow down. We've seen 3 straight years where there's been significant investment in the market. We've benefited from that a lot in St. Clair County in the last 3 years, but it is starting to slow down a little bit. And investment in St. Clair County is actually up this year, but a lot of that is healthcare related. Now, here's where we are currently with the St. Clair Industrial Park. Since January of 2014, we've submitted that site to 12 prospects. We're currently working with 5 of them, so 7 of those projects either landed somewhere else or they didn't happen. But there's currently still 5 prospects that we're working with. And they range everything from, the largest of them is the entire site, 100 acres, and the smallest of them is a 2-acre project that we're currently working with a local company. So here's our marketing strategy going forward related to that site. We're planning to do some limited billboards on I-94, possibly on I-69. We're going to try to negotiate a deal where the skins can be reused on other billboards that become, if any of them become vacant for short periods of time where they, so in other words, we will lease a period of time, but then we will negotiate a deal where they will put them up so that they don't have an empty billboard for, it's something we did very successfully with I-69 to market the corridor. And so we're going to try to do the same thing here. We hope that this will be a multi-year attempt to promote the property. And the purpose of this is, we're not expecting that a prospect's going to come by and they're going to say, oh, hey, we got to go see that land right now. What we're trying to do is build some awareness because a lot of companies, their trucks and so forth, they pass through on their way to other destinations, Metro Detroit, Lansing plant, wherever they're going. We want them to think about St. Clair County, and this is one of the ways that we can create some awareness about this particular site. It is clearly the #1 site we have in St. Clair County right now for new construction. It's development ready, it's got all the infrastructure, everything that they need, and we've got all the data on it. Water and sewer capacity, everything. We can tell them how much it's going to cost to hook up to the system. We've got all the data that you could possibly want. So it's the issues that we've had with this property in the past really have been, some of it's been just misfortune. The Magna project that landed in Battle Creek where the company that owned that plant went bankrupt. You know, we had that project won. That was coming to St. Clair County until that company went bankrupt. So little things like that have kind of gotten in the way. Recently, this other project that I mentioned that's going to Lyon Township. But it's just a matter of time, and we're going to win a couple of those projects. We're also submitting a postcard to site consultants. We did this last year very effectively, and we talked to site consultants, and they said, you can send us newsletters, you can send us emails, things like that. Chances are we're not going to be able to read them because they get so many of those things from all around the country. But what they said they will look at is a postcard because it's easy. You just flip it over, 2 pages. They're either interested or they're not interested. So we put one out last year experimentally, and then we checked back to some of the site consultants to see what they thought, and they said it's great. They like that idea, so now we're doing a couple more this year, and one of them is going to be specifically on the St. Clair Industrial Park site. The other thing is we're going to be going to a couple of conferences that are related to food processing. One of them's in April, and the other one's in June. They both happen to be in Chicago. Both of those trips are likely going to be paid for from a grant from the state of Michigan. And we're going to be going representing our whole region, but specifically we're going there to look for prospects for this site. Here's some other projects that we're currently involved with. I think you all know that we've been involved with the St. Clair Inn Rehab Project. We get calls from potential investors. We fielded one about 2 weeks ago from a company that says they want to come into town to look at it. So far they haven't come into town to do that, but we expect that they will. We're also working on the brewery project. In fact, 2 weeks ago, David Haynes from my office and myself went down to Indiana, to Carmel, and we toured the brewery that the Paul brothers have that they just opened in January down there. It's a 7-barrel system, so it's smaller than the one that they're proposing to do here, but it was still nice to go down there and take a look at how they operate it. We spent probably half an hour talking to their brewer, and he really knows his business, and he's going to be coming up here to get this. He's going to be up here for about a month working on this one and training the other people that are going to be working and running the brewery part of the business. The one in Carmel has a tap room, and they don't serve food. Here they're going to have some food. It'll be mostly bar food, but they'll have some food. So it'll be similar but different in certain respects, and it'll be much larger here than it was down there. But anyway, we went down there. We met them, had a good meeting, toured their whole facility, and then we went over to another place that they own called the Brockway Pub, which is just a couple miles away from the new brewery. And over there we got a chance to meet with another part of their team, and I think it's a great group. It's going to be a great project for St. Clair. So that'll be coming. We're also going to be working with them on the financing for the project. And then part of the strategy of the EDA that I'm going to talk about in a minute involves trying to attract residential development, and our objective is not so much the development side of it, it's identifying land that can be converted from greenfield into subdivisions in the future. We're specifically focusing on this area, St. Clair Township, maybe a little bit in China Township. Sites that are development ready, where the infrastructure is close and can be extended relatively easily without great expense. And our focus is going to be on middle-sized residential builders and smaller builders. We're going to look local first, but we're also looking in the Metro Detroit region for other builders who are building in the northern Macomb part of the area with the idea that we can entice them to try to come our way to take a look at land. So we've been doing this for a couple of years, but it's been kind of sporadic. So this year we're doing more of a concentrated effort to do that. And one of the reasons is because the housing market's pretty tough right now, and a lot of the lots that were available in this area are gone. They've been built, and there's not that much left. There's still a few lots, like in Fort Gratiot Township and a couple of subdivisions there, but outside of that, there's not that much left in our county. And our population is still in decline, and we need to turn that around, and one way to do that is to make sure that we have nice homes that are available to people that are looking. So here's just kind of a hodgepodge of some of the things that we're involved with right now. The first is that a couple of months ago, the EDA launched its new 5-year economic development strategic plan. We have some specific projects in the plan that relate to your community. Another thing that's happening is that the EDA is likely going to be relocating our office from the UMTech building where we're currently located in Port Huron to another location. Just recently I came in and I talked to Mr. Booth about the possibility of the EDA opening up an office here in City Hall so that we'll have a location in the southern part of the county, well, southern to middle part of the county that we can work out of when we're in the area. I also mentioned that we have an agribusiness strategy that we've been implementing. This strategy was created last year in partnership with other economic development agencies in Region 6, which is a 7-county region along the I-69 corridor and in the Thumb. And we've been working based off of a grant that we got from the state that's been allowing us to reach out to site consultants, to go to shows, to develop a strategy. And this year we're shifting into the implementation side of the strategy. So some of those conferences that we're going to be going to, the intent is to try to identify prospects. It's interesting, there were 5 areas that we focused on with the agribusiness strategy. One of them is milk production. One of them is bean processing and oil processing from beans. So those are 2 naturals for our area. The largest county for production of soybeans is Sanilac County, it's directly north of us. So we think when you combine our workforce with the infrastructure that we have here, that we have a great location for doing food processing, so we think that the strategy is going to be a natural for our county. One of the things that we're going to be doing that might interest you is we're advocating for the development of a Michigan energy policy. Just today at the board meeting, we adopted a resolution authorizing me to sign a letter to send to Senator Knopf's and in the state Senate and Senator Nesbitt in the House. Senator Nesbitt has some current bills that are pending that relate to the development of an energy policy in Michigan. We're not necessarily in a position where we're going to support all of his bills, but we support in concept some of the things that he's talking about with his legislation, which are to create a policy in Michigan that's fair, that protects rates, that creates Michigan jobs, and promotes creating energy for Michigan in Michigan as opposed to importing it from out of state. So those are some things that the EDA is going to be advocating for over the next months as the state legislature and the governor create that policy. And then a couple of local events that we have. We have a Meet the Buyer. It's a binational event that's taking place on April 22nd. It's binational. We have some companies from Canada that are coming. We have other companies from around the state that are coming, but most of them are right here in either St. Clair or Lapeer County. So that's coming. That's a great opportunity for companies to connect and look for opportunities for contracts. We're also doing our Canadian Appreciation Day, which your community has participated in the past. That's happening on May 16th, which is the whole weekend. In terms of our travel schedule, this year we're going to California and to Chicago with the state of Michigan to meet with site consultants. Both of those happen in the summertime. We're also going to Chicago for 2 food processing conferences and then for another conference to meet with site consultants and real estate agents. We're also talking about going to Iowa to meet with Cargill. Not Cargill Salt, but the parent company. Cargill is one of the big food processors in the Midwest, but they don't have a facility in Michigan. We're a hole in their map. They have, I think, 2 facilities in Indiana, 2 or 3 in Ohio and Illinois, and 1 in Wisconsin, but they don't have one in Michigan. So we're going to go meet with Cargill to see if there's an opportunity for them to take a look at doing a site in our area. Just a couple more things and then I'm done. One of the things that I've spent 2.5 years working on with some other people in the county is the development of a career-based education system. And as you know, we don't have a lot of voc education in any of our high schools anymore. And we've got a skills gap that continues to grow in Michigan and in particular in our area. Especially as the baby boomers retire and a lot of the kids going through the high school system today, they don't want to go into manufacturing, for example. or engineering is another one where we have a deficiency. And about 30% of the kids that graduate from high school in our county do not go on to college, for example. Some of them go right into the workplace, and then some of them just don't have a plan. They don't do anything. They stumble around. They work in retail. So 2.5 years ago, we formed a steering committee, and we started working on this. And the goal is for every single student that graduates from high school that they have a career plan for where they're going next, whether it's to go into the military, go to college, go into an apprenticeship program, or right into the workplace. We want every student to understand where they're going, why they're going there, what they can expect to earn in that field, whatever it is. And the idea is to then combine that effort with some data that we're gathering on what type of employment opportunities are actually available in the county. So it doesn't do us any good to train 2,000 people to go into nursing if we only have 200 nursing jobs available per year, right? Especially when we have gaps and we don't have anybody going into insurance and other things like that. So this year, for the first time, we did a survey on this to determine what type of jobs, at least in manufacturing, are going to be available over the next year. And based on that, we're working with RISA on a summer program this year that's going to be done as a pilot for students that are graduating that are not going to college, that are interested in going into manufacturing and doing CNC machining. That's the first of what we think will be a number of similar training programs that we're going to develop in the future with RISA. And they're going to span a variety of careers. So it's not going to be just manufacturing. We're going to do healthcare. We're talking about doing some coding training in the future and so on. All of these programs are going to be partnered with private sector companies, and the students are going to, when they go into these programs, it's going to be like being on a job. They're going to be in these programs for weeks at a time. They have to show up every day on time. We're going to track that. And then at the end of it, they're going to have a portfolio that they're going to be able to hand to people. It's going to have a resume in it. It's going to say, here's my attendance, here's my work key score, and other information that employers can use to decide whether they want to hire that person. So that's just one example, but we're working all around the county right now. And this year, for the first time ever, we have 4 career pathway advisors working in 5 of the 7 school districts in the county. This is one of the direct outcomes of this effort. The career pathway advisors are working with employers and with high school students. And they're linking them up for things like job shadowing, internships, for professional days, and so on. So that's another effort that's coming out of this, and you're going to see more of that going forward. The countywide strategic plan, Blue Meets Green, just had a retreat a couple of months ago, and they developed 5 priority projects for the county. One of those priority projects is to create a talent coordinator position. The talent coordinator is going to be responsible for managing those career pathway advisors and developing the programs with the private sector. So that'll be the next thing that you'll see come along. And then lastly, part of that effort is to promote STEM education, STEM careers. Automation is one of the areas that we're really trying to promote because we have a lot of companies that use robots, and they're all struggling to find enough PLC programmers. So this year we're having Robo Frenzy, which will be in May, on May 16th. And Robo Frenzy is going to be a competition for all the FIRST robotics teams. We have 12 teams coming in. We have 6 in our county. All 6 of them are already committed to this. Then we have 6 more coming from the region outside of the county. We have about a dozen corporate sponsors that are funding the entire event, and including the EDA. We're putting some money into it as well. And the idea is to promote STEM careers, robotics, to connect the employers to the students that are graduating, that are part of these teams, and to try to recruit more kids to get into the robotics teams in the future. And then lastly, another way that we can promote manufacturing and manufacturing careers to parents. So a lot of good things that will come out of that Robo Frenzy event in May. So with that, I'm just going to open it up and see if anyone has any questions.
Anybody on council have any questions? Anybody in the audience?
was reading in the paper a week ago or so about the abatements that the city offers. And it stated that the city don't get a response back from these people on the job creation, that they were a part of the abatement. Did I read that article right? Out of 24, one company replied back.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Because that is part of the abatement, right, to report the job creation back to the city?
Not necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Not necessarily. No, I can tell you how it is, though. That's a good question. Just a few short years ago, the community started imposing what they call a development agreement, which the company has to sign. And the development agreement includes a requirement that they do an annual report where they tell the community how many jobs they created. But prior to that, there was no requirement in the law that community or the companies do that. So it's only really over like the last 4 years that that's been happening.
So we've only had one tax abatement in the last 4 years? 'Cause I've been to pretty much all the meetings. I remember you people saying, you know, part of this is we want to know what's going on. These jobs are being created. That was part of the agreement.
Don't we receive an annual report from those abatements?
That was part of the agreement. That was part of the agreement. And my question is, we're only getting one back in the mail. Why ain't this being followed up? How many jobs have been created from the abatements that the city of St. Clair has given?
Yeah, a lot.
How many? No, not a lot. How many?
Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how
Now, if
many.
they would have sent the information that we were supposed to the city, they could answer the question, right?
Well, we track employment levels of companies when we go out and visit them, but we only visit them once a year. So we could tell you that. We could say, which company do you want to know? And we could go and tell you what their current employment is. The problem is there was a gap, a period of time at which, before anybody at the EDA was actually there, it was when there was a previous staff where they weren't tracking it. So I can't tell you 6 years ago, for example, what they were supposed to have in terms of jobs. I can only tell you what they've added in the last 4 years.
Well, I'd like to know how many jobs are actually being created that the city knows from all these abatements we've given out.
You know, that's a good question. We did put out a survey to all of our manufacturers prior to that story coming out in the paper. A lot of them did not reply to us, and part of that was just, I think, timing. And the other thing is, they don't have to reply to us. You, they have to reply to, but they don't have to reply to the
My
EDA.
question is the city, how many have the city, how many replied back to the city, according to Article 1?
I think that was from that survey that they were referring to, though, because they got the data from us.
They got from the city assessor, sent out 24 letters.
No, they didn't.
One back.
They didn't get it from the assessor. They got it from the state tax. They got it from the state tax commission.
Oh, the article stated the city of St. Clair assessor.
Yeah, give us a week. By next week, we'll have some kind of answer for that.
You raise a good question, though.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thanks.
All right, we will move on to number 6, ordinances, resolutions. A, adoption of snow ordinance amendment 15-2. Before we dig into this, I'm going to ask Katie Stepp, this is our code enforcement officer, to kind of come up and give us a little side of her side of the story.
All right, I'm here to clear up some confusion regarding the snow ordinance change, so I prepared something I'd like to read to you. Give me 1 second. The City of St. Clair has several postal carriers that walk delivering mail to over 2,400 homes and businesses on roughly 80 streets in the city using sidewalks where provided. The schools have many children that do not get bus transportation. Many of these children, including high school students, rely on the use of sidewalks to go to and from school daily. A lot of residents also enjoy jogging or taking their dogs on walks. Some even are wheelchair bound and use the sidewalks to get basic necessities they need to live. This is a glimpse into some of the sidewalk traffic we have here in St. Clair. So when it starts to snow and it accumulates, city ordinance does not state when everyone should have their sidewalks cleared. Ordinance 50-1 in Section A needs to have a time frame guide for myself and residents to follow. Without this information, Section B's giving 24-hour notice to clear order would be up for debate since it does not state how long to wait before I can give the order. The two sections need to be clear on how long to wait before I should give an order and how long to wait once the order has been given. And also, if you do approve the ordinance and give a clear time on what it should be cleared for, or give a time frame for the clearing, I should say, I don't think we should expect our 6 DPW workers to have all sidewalks cleared, plus their normal street clearing, in that same time that residents have to clear only one sidewalk in front of their home. As long as the DPW has started to remove the snow within the same time frame you set, it should be within the ordinance guidelines considering they have a much larger area in comparison. Thank you for taking the time to review it.
Thank you, Katie.
Did I clear up anything on that?
Anything means something, so yes.
I know it's coming across a little confusing, but basically what I'm saying is that, excuse me, I have some dry throat. The two sections, there's the A section and the B section. I don't know when to give the order if Section A doesn't have the time frame. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and tell me if I'm clearing this up too. In Section A, we need to say, okay, so within so many hours after the snow stops, you got to clear your sidewalk.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, you know, the specific time that we originally had suggested, which was the 24 hours. It can be whatever time frame that you choose. But I think the two need to work together, Section A and B. So
Right, because-
I can't follow Section B unless you've given me the time frame from Section A.
Okay, here's a question for you then. If Section A were to say, okay, it stops snowing now, you got 24 hours. Now, if you don't, in that 24 hour, if it's not cleared in 24 hours, now our code enforcement officer, the chief of police can come out and issue some sort of warning or whatever. But now, does that warning mean now, from that warning, now you have 24 hours, or you're going to be cited? Or what are you looking for there? That's, I guess, what I'm asking.
You're saying that's how it is worded in Section B right now. It's saying, we give the order, and then they have 24 hours to clear it.
Yeah,
But
that's the way I read it.
Yeah, but when do I give the order, is what I'm asking.
Right.
That's where it's missing, Part
That's
A.
where we need to get this
Yeah.
thing, flush. All right. Unless anybody on council has another idea, my idea is let's postpone this thing. Okay, there's no big push on snow right now, but.
No.
Oh geez, I hope it just didn't jinx us all. I'm sorry, everybody. But I think we need to postpone it and retool this wording between you, Mr. Boyer, Mr. Downey, Mr. whoever, and then come back, and so that we all understand, everybody, I mean us and the community understands, here's what the rule is, and here's how it's going to be enforced.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I think so.
So can I ask for a motion to postpone? Can I do that?
Yes, you're right.
I'll make a motion to table this. I support.
That's fine.
All right, the motion's been made to postpone. Call the roll, please.
Kinsfater?
Yeah.
Cuffa?
Yeah.
Laporte?
Yes.
Foley?
Yes.
Cedar?
Yes.
Carried unanimously.
Thanks you, Katie, and we'll get this thing hammered out and chiseled in how we really want it, right? Okay.
Thanks, Katie.
Katie. All right. We'll go to number 7, Reports Administration, Mr. Booth.
I have several items this evening, Your Honor. I'd like to start by saying that the city received a street sweeper last week from Bell Equipment. Our DPW will be using this for 2 weeks before it's returned. Just another note on that, we'll bring the sweeper back in again at least one more time, if not 2, for the balance of the year. But they're out doing cleaning, and that will continue. I also want to update council on paving projects. The date for receiving paving bids for the 2014, which is now to be done in 15, scrap tire grant, has been moved back. Rowe Engineering and I have been in contact with local suppliers to see if there's anyone that can make the scrap tire mix. Not redesign it, but actually take the mix that you purchase and run it through their asphalt plant. The supplier typically used for this is Pyramid Asphalt. They're out of Bay City, the Bay City area. And they've indicated that St. Clair is too far, obviously, to keep the material warm for that distance. So I'll keep you posted on the progress. Roe is working on it, and I believe that maybe with the DNR that issued it as well, to see if there's anything that they can do. Next item, leaf and brush pickup has started, not necessarily following the direct schedule as of yet. I suspect if it stays in the 60s, you'll see more people out, and we'll get back to the full routine of picking up leaves and brush as per the schedule. The final item I have is crack sealing equipment. Just wanted to give a little update on that. I spoke with a local crack sealing company this past Friday. They purchased last year the same Craftco sealer that we are looking at purchasing. The owner is going to provide me with pricing this week. Pricing will include application of the sealer using their machine, so they would do the work. I'll make a comparison with the prices that we've already received in and move the project forward. So there'll be more on at the next meeting on that. I also did contact last Friday the gentleman that gave us the pricing already for the new equipment, and he's anxious, of course, to sell us whether we lease or buy. And that's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Anything, Mr. Booth? All right. Mr. Downey, you have anything tonight?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right. Any city departments tonight? Okay. The authorities, boards, commissions, committees, chairpersons, anybody have anything? All right. We have no unfinished business. We'll go to number 9, new business. A, approval letter credit to support application for haul route permit.
That's me. On February 9th of this year, council granted approval for administration to secure a road permit with the St. Clair County Road Commission. The permit has been received, copy of it here. The permit grants Beaver Lumber and Rivers Bend Marina to use a section of St. Clair Highway and Bree Road. As part of the permitting process, the city is required to do several items. Letter of credit was one of the items on there, and they ask that we produce a $20,000 letter of credit for the permit. Tonight I ask for council's approval to issue the letter of credit.
Support.
All right, motion made, support, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go to B, accept bids for lawn maintenance 2015-2016. Mr. Booth?
Okay, the city advertised and received bids for the 2015 and 16 mowing seasons. 4 bids were received. They were received from Andy's Lawn and Landscape, Precision Care, Kevin's Lawn Care and Snow Removal, and D&E Landscaping and Grading, Inc. The low bid was $23,926.75 from D&E Landscaping. This was $7,876 less on an annual basis than the second lowest bid submitted by Kevin's. Bid totals were determined by using an estimated 20 cuts per Bid totals were determined by using an estimated 20 cuts per year, which is, I'd say, very conservative. I'd say it's probably more 23 to 25. And then also I included 1 cleanup in the spring and 1 in the fall. Our old contract, just so you know, or for reference, was $23,962.20, using the same number of cuts. I ask for a motion from council to award the contract to the low bidder.
So moved.
I'll support.
All right, the motions are made and supported to accept the low bidder of D&E Landscaping and Grading at $23,926.75. Questions, comments?
Where are they out of?
They're here this evening if you have any questions. They're out of, Richmond, I guess.
Where you at out there?
You want to come up to the microphone, please? And give us your name, please.
Chris Manos. The building is located on 69620 Low Plank Road, which is basically kind of right over by the high school. And we do a lot of work in St. Clair County. I'm sure you've seen us around before. Miller Pipeline, Consumers Energy. I mean, we kind of follow them around, so, I mean, we really maintain a high-quality work. I mean, I don't feel you guys would be disappointed. I've lived in this area for 15 years and worked for numerous companies, so I'm really familiar with the area.
Do you cut municipality now?
Yes, we're actually currently cutting the city of Algonac. We've done the city of Richmond numerous years, much bigger municipal buildings too. I mean, city of Mount Clemens, all over the place, Lake Orion. It's
How about cemeteries?
the cemetery. We've done the cemetery in Richmond, which is, I guess, on the opposite side of the road is McDonald's and
Right.
Taco Bell and such forth. So it's not nothing that we can't handle.
What type of mower do you use in the cemetery? Do you use the, according to the bid spec?
Yeah,
Rear discharge or?
They're still side discharge mowers, but they have mulch kits on them. Rear discharge mowers have it's been new. It's kind of just been introduced. We have demoed them. They do not cut as well. I mean, it lays it down like a hayfield. I mean, it's more or less to keep debris from flying out of the side of the chute.
But you're not blowing it on the gravestones?
No, I mean, the mulch kit, you're gonna get very minimum grass clippings on the headstones.
Now, Chris, after they cut the cemetery, does somebody kind of walk through afterward, make sure like no tombstones were knocked off or there's not a big pile of grass laying on one?
Yeah, I do, do weekly visits to multiple properties, so it's a lot of the bigger commercial complexes, we do walkthroughs every week, and if there's any questions or concerns or anything like that, I mean, they're taken care of immediately.
Did you get a chance, I don't know if I should ask him or you, Mike, but did you get a chance to meet Brent?
No, I did not,
Brent Warren?
no.
Okay.
He would be the gentleman you would deal with.
Okay.
He's down at the DPW hall right across the street from the
Okay.
cemetery.
All right, I did speak to somebody over there about potentially the possibility of during like the fall cleanups of dumping at that site, but I guess they would not like us to dump there, which is, it's not a problem. It was more or less to cut down on trips.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for Chris? We've had the motion made and supported. All right, call the roll, please.
Puffa?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Foley?
Yes.
Kinsfater?
Yes.
Cedar?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, Chris. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go see approve special events permit St. Clair Recreation Department summer concerts. Treese.
Thank you. We submitted a special events permit on behalf of the City of St. Clair Recreation Department for our summer events scheduled at Palmer Park. And they include a concert, which unfortunately on the permit, the date is wrong. It says July 19th. Our concerts are on Fridays. It should be June 19th. And that's our first concert for our series. And that is our Elvis concert that gets a big crowd. And for your information, the remainder of our concerts that are held in June and July this year will be held over across the street over at the Plaza Park with that, helping to promote that new development over there. So the June 19th will be the only concert actually at Palmer Park, and we will be using the Showmobile. And the other activity that we will have at Palmer Park this summer will be the River Classic Car Show. And that's scheduled for Saturday, July 11th. This was, in the past, a Friday night event, but they've asked to move it to Saturday because they want to utilize the entire park, get more cars down there. And we can set up everything that we need for the DPW to do in preparation for the event on Friday, so it will not add to any DPW hours on the weekend. And the St. Clair Cruisers, it's a group of volunteers, put that event together for us. And the Chief Jefferson did review the special events permit and recommended them for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
All right, the motion's made, support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll go to D, approve a special events permit for St. Clair Recreation Kids Bike Parade.
So another event that we have is an annual Kids Bike Parade, and that is scheduled for Tuesday, June 14th. And that starts at the Education Center on 6th Street, the old middle school. The kids decorate their bikes, and then we go on a little bike parade down to the Community Center building. And we work with the Historical Museum. They have the museum open for tours. We have some games and ice cream.
Did you say
for the
June
kids.
14th?
Excuse me.
July.
July.
All right.
Getting my,
Yeah.
I'm working on my summer brochures, so all my dates are
I'll make a
coming
motion
together.
to approve.
I'll support.
All right, the
Sorry.
motion's made, support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
We'll go to number 10, claims of the council, March 20th, 27, April 2, and April 10, 2015.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll support.
All right, motion's made, support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll go to number 11, public comment, public questions. If you have any questions, comments, give yourself about 3 minutes, just in fairness to everyone. Come up to the microphone, please.
Shelley Green, I live at Fredmore Highway. Okay, first I want to say thank you to Annette for such a nice follow-up letter addressing the issues regarding the cemetery. That was very nice of you. We appreciate that. And we appreciate the fact that you have taken the necessary steps towards addressing the mold problem. That was our biggest concern in the fall. With that said, we do have a few more questions. First, we would like to know, we learned at one of the cemetery board meetings that they have been allocated a great deal of money, and we're kind of wondering why that hasn't been used in the past to help maintain the cemetery, why it got in such a bad shape to begin with if they have the funds to maintain it. If you guys are able to answer that, I don't know if that would be more of a question for them.
I guess, can you define bad shape?
Yeah, we brought in a bunch of pictures last year. I don't know if they still have them somewhere. There was,
I saw them, I mean, mainly
Okay.
it was grass on monuments, was it not? And
no,
Some
the
broken items.
driveways, the curbsides overgrown with weeds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just over the entire places.
So you're talking landscaping, basically?
Basically landscaping, yeah. Yeah, so that was one of the questions is how, I mean, if there's funds, why did it ever get so bad to begin with? Another question is, in the letter, it states that Section 10, which happens to be one of the newest sections, I believe, is where they're going to start with the tree trimming, and we're wondering if they're starting there and moving, I'm so confused on my directions right now, that way, I guess, if that's the plan, or if they're starting there just because it's the newest section, why Section 10 was chosen, being that it is the newest section, and with it being the newest section, quite frankly, it's in the best shape.
No, actually, the arborist has been contacted. Brent and him are going to do a walkthrough.
Okay.
And they have a list of all the trees, and they're going to walk through the whole cemetery and write down what needs to be trimmed, if any trees possibly
Okay,
need
so
to be
that's more for the
removed.
tree trimming?
So part of the tree trimming.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's already been contacted for this season, and so hopefully we're gonna get that taken care of, and wherever the most need is right now.
Perfect.
So some of the actual dirt, I don't know the correct terms with sandy dirt and how to fix that, but
Right.
tree trimming won't help in those spots, but areas that it will, it's going to be addressed immediately.
Okay.
So they are going to walk through the whole cemetery to answer your question, and if they start in Section 10,
Okay.
then that's where they see the most need, but not necessarily going to start there.
Okay, perfect. And then, last fall, you guys jumped on it right away, and so did the cemetery board, and they started to kill the weeds, but they left the dead weeds, which was, so it was a step in the right direction. We're just wondering if this year, once they put the fertilizer down and they start the process, is somebody gonna go behind them and actually clean up? I mean, if you put weed killer down at your house, you don't leave the dead weeds laying there. Is there gonna be a process to, somebody gonna go behind them and like clean up the curbside, and, or is it just gonna look like dead grass laying there?
Well, it should have been cleaned up afterwards, so
Okay.
I will be monitoring it, because this
Okay.
is the season we're going to be making all of these changes and
Perfect.
following through with it. So hopefully we see a big difference after this season with all these new things being implemented.
Excellent.
So yes, it will be followed up with.
Okay, and that was going to be the last question. We truly appreciate and respect the Board of Cemetery, their trustees. We were wondering, it also says that the trustees are recommending that one person is delegated. Will that help with the follow-through to make sure all this stuff does get done if one person is delegated?
That was an idea the cemetery board was tossing around, was to have seasonal help. We haven't moved forward with hiring anybody or
Okay.
assigning anybody, so that responsibility will fall to the DPW crew.
Okay.
Brent and myself will be following through, and the cemetery board meets every month and they do their own walkthroughs.
Right.
So as of right now, no, there's not one specific person allocated towards it, but
Okay.
it will be a group effort.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley.
Wait, stop here a second. Oak Street, half flooded now. What are we gonna do with it?
Spoke with Mr. Warren this morning about Oak Street and asked him if he'd been down there lately to take a look. And I know that they've put some gravel, that's what he'd indicated. And then I believe we need to do some ditch work once things dry up a bit.
Anytime when it dries up?
When it dries up.
Because the hole now is full of water, half the road's flooded.
Yeah.
And my second question is, spring hydrant flushing, is that started yet?
I can find out for you, Bill. I don't know where they're at with that.
Did you find out when it is?
Absolutely.
Let me know. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public tonight? Okay, we'll go to number 12, Mayor and Council comments and announcements. Anybody have anything tonight? I do have one. I just ask everybody to keep member Jane Krebs in your prayers. She's battling some health issues right now. I will ask for a motion to go into closed session to discuss strategy connected with the negotiation of collective bargaining agreement with the employees represented by the Police Officers Labor Council, and for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and a confidential attorney-client communication regarding a legal opinion.
So move.
Support.
All right, motion's made and supported. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Papa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Foley,
Yes.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
Carrie John.
All right, you are welcome to stay around and hang around. I do not believe we'll be taking any action when we come out. Not, have a good night, be careful. Good luck to everyone.